And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show. It is Sunday, June 8th, Game 2 of the NBA Finals. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers with the miraculous dub coming out of Game 1. And now we are back to break it down for Game 2. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live, and follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. What's up, everybody? Y'all ready to break down some basketball today? Because I am incredibly excited to do so. Been waiting for this one, you know? I did not expect the Pacers to make that comeback in Game 1, and we're going to certainly talk about it here. The line for today is 11, which is pretty big. We'll talk about that in a sec. Just out of the gate, I guess it's probably easiest to say this. My expectation for today, my plan for today is that I'm expecting Oklahoma City to cover. I like them in this game quite a bit, given the loss in Game 1. A very tough spot for the Pacers. So that is my lean for the game. Now, my lean for the game does not necessarily affect my DFS plays, but they will be informed. So good morning. Einstein, crazy as it sounds, SGA the weakest link on the defense. Yeah, I mean it's a twofold thing. In my mind, and I'm going to double check it. Not the best on-ball guy. Great in help. I mean, he is one of the best rim protectors as a guard, which is helpful. But you want Shai to be there in help scenarios. And not only that, but you want to put him, to a degree, it's no different than the opposite side. You want to put Shai in actions because you want Shai to get more tired because he's going to be in most actions on the offensive side. So you definitely want to pick on Shai when you can because you just simply want to wear him down on the offensive side. Now, Oklahoma City knows that. So does that result in switches to get SGA out of actions? Yeah, probably. They probably scram him out to the weak side, but easier said than done. Do I think OKC goes back to the bigger lineup, giving the rebound disparity? I don't necessarily know if they go back to it to start. I would be shocked if they don't play the double bigs at some time in this game. That would really surprise me. Let's look at Shai's perimeter defense. Yeah, I expect them to go to double bigs at some point in time today. Prior to Game 1, I said I liked it. They went the opposite direction. Look, to be fair, it worked. I don't want to quibble over. We got to remember that, like, the binary outcome of win or loss doesn't necessarily describe what happened when they were playing single bigs. So for Shai here, perimeter defense. And this all makes a lot of sense to me. Not a great ISO guy, just average, not navigating ball screens. Again, that's when you're a 30% usage guy on offense, fighting through screens is like not going to be very easy for you. So that's not surprising. Not chasing everybody around. Again, not surprising, but great in passing lanes, great trying to pop out steals. None of that is surprising to me. The real good part about Shai's defense, B, rim deterrent, is very interesting for a guard. C plus rim protection, that's overall. As a guard, that's pretty damn good. Choke Hold'em is saying it, and I completely agree with this. We need a bigger day out of Chet. Well, look, we need Chet to play more. But I want to start there because that's my biggest critique from game one is the lack of Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren played 23 minutes and 32 seconds in game one. Now, did it go great? No. Offensively, he had some trouble finishing at the rim against Miles Turner. That's not super surprising. Miles Turner is a really good rim protector. But, and I was screaming this during the fourth quarter while we were live on Playback, which I will be again, by the way, playback.tv/Stokastic. Link is in the chat. I will be live for the entire game. Look, I get it. Chet was not awesome. Missed a couple bunnies. But let's also remember, Chet Holmgren was a +4 in the times that he was on the floor. So they didn't lose Chet's minutes. Now, that could have been a much higher number if he just simply made a layup or two. But also, with Chet Holmgren on in game one, if I just add a date filter here to grab game one. So, hold on. Chet Holmgren on. Why is that not giving me the game? Do I gotta? Oh, okay. That makes sense because that's not the right date and I'm stupid. Okay. When he was on, let's not forget here. Yeah, Chino, it's and Britt. I'm just so used to it being every other day that the 2-day gap there was just melting my brain. So in the 24 minutes that he played, 49 possessions, the Pacers defense had a 94 defensive rating. Like they weren't finding a ton of success. Slightly underperformed from a shooting perspective. They were 6 of 19 from 3. The shot quality was 55%. They were at 52.5% effective field goal percentage. So it's like a little bit of shot luck, but nothing crazy. But the defense was still there. The Pacers were not scoring when Chet was on the floor. And I think just a small tweak defensively maintains this and puts him in better situations for help D. And then similarly, you just kind of expect him to be a little bit better offensively. You know, if we look at the shots that Chet took, he was 2 for 6 at the rim. Like, he got good shots. They're contested shots against Miles Turner for sure. But, like, that's what we're talking about here. Him being 2 of 6 at the rim and not really getting the best looks against Miles Turner. I think we can correct that, but I think the ultimate takeaway here, if you're not playing your best, you're arguably second best. You could tell me third. I won't quibble. You got to play your top. This is the finals. Your top 3 players need to be out there. If Chet's not on the floor for 30 plus minutes, barring foul trouble, I think that's a real big L for Oklahoma City. Like, Chet Holmgren overall on this season, his skill right now on dunks and threes, he's a plus 3.5 EPM guy. He's one of the 5 best defensive players on the planet. And he's an above average offensive player in any scenario. Even if you think that the offense isn't the case, at worst he's average, that's still an exceptional player. I mean, we don't exactly have a ton of super positive offensive guys. Like, here's everybody with an offensive EPM greater than 1, that also has a usage rate, let's say higher than 18, that also plays at least 24 minutes a game. There's not a ton of these dudes that are this good offensively and also back that up defensively. Chet Holmgren needs to play over 30 minutes today unless he's in foul trouble. Now, if he was losing minutes to Hartenstein, I could be okay with that because I get the path that they're taking. If we look at Isaiah Hartenstein from game 1 and we look at the Pacers stats, defensively, it didn't go well. Offensively, though, it did. And a little bit of the problem to me was just simply some really good shooting luck when Isaiah Hartenstein was on the floor. They were 8 of 14 from 3 with Hartenstein on. And it's not like the shot quality was anything crazy. They just happened to make a couple extra threes here. So I'm fine with the single bigs, but I do like the idea of dominating with size. So as I look at the ownership now, we have an abundance of captain ownership coming into Shai. And then it's a bit of J-Dub at 10K, a bit of Chet at 8K. Halliburton only 6% owned at the captain spot, 11-2. I find Halliburton difficult to get to in this spot, at least in the captain spot. Although the intrigue of the low ownership is certainly there. And I don't totally know how best to manage that. Why is that showing up incorrectly in my sheet? Why am I? Oh, that's why. I'm counting my ownership in the wrong way. Actually, yeah, I am counting my ownership in the wrong way. That's silly. Let me fix that quickly. Because right now I am not getting to Tyrese Halliburton in the captain spot, and I want to talk through sort of what I am getting to. You guys can see the ownership on the screen right now. I'm essentially neutral to the field on SGA. Why is this not grabbing the proper ownership? Ow, why am I dividing that by fucking anything? There we go. Now I got it correct on my screen. So Chet, 45% owned. I have 30. So I am finding it a little difficult to get with the field on SGA at the captain spot. I'm making it up with 2 guys. And there are 2 guys that I was very heavy on at the captain spot in game 1. That did not work out for me. It certainly didn't work out for OKC. But I am doubling the field on Chet at the captain spot. He's 10%. I've got 22. And I'm doubling the field on J-Dub. He's 15% owned. I've got 30. One of those guys is going to have a big game today. I feel like pretty damn good about that. And I'm happy to have them. Hopefully it's both of them, if I'm being honest. But the 2 stands that I want to take at captain today are, without a doubt, J-Dub and Chet. Now, obviously, we didn't get as many minutes out of Chet as we were expecting last time, but 8K salary, he's tough to get away from overall. Then we need to work our way to the next guy that I find interesting, which is Cason Wallace. Now, Cason Wallace was the guy that got the benefit of the lack of Chet Holmgren, the fact that they were going small. We got a start out of Cason Wallace. We got a close out of Cason Wallace. Cason Wallace played the final 3 minutes and 23 seconds over Chet Holmgren at a time where they just gave it up. Now, I like Cason Wallace. I don't want to undersell him here. But I think that was a gigantic mistake. And I know the path that they're taking, because, and you can see it right here, the Pacers take Miles Turner off the floor to go small with Toppin. Now, Toppin had a good game. He was knocking down the shots. I also think that Rick Carlisle is wrong to do this, which I bitched about in the last series. But I don't like the Thunder allowing the Pacers to dictate the game. And it's a very specific reason why for me. Again, it's not that I don't like Cason Wallace, but we need to be very clear here. Cason Wallace is not even remotely close to the same skill level of Chet Holmgren. And I don't care what the script of the game is and how this matchup is working. There's no scenario to me where these guys equalize each other. Cason Wallace is not good on offense. And that's not surprising. He's a 21-year-old small guard. These guys are not good early. I love Cason Wallace moving forward. I think he's going to be a great asset for the Thunder for years. But that doesn't make him an asset right now. He's a negative 1.2 offensive EPM. He's great defensively. They don't really need that from him because they got plenty of defense from every other guard spot. But this is a guy that's not a great three-point shooter, not a great free throw guy. He doesn't turn the ball over for a guard, which is nice. But I don't love seeing a second-year guard get 33 minutes in a situation like this. He's not a good offensive player. And I think you have to cut those minutes down. So I personally would like to see a reduction of Cason Wallace's minutes to increase the minutes of Chet and Isaiah Hartenstein and Kenrich Williams, potentially. I think that was another mild miss. If you're going to go small, I'd like a lot more than 40 seconds of Kenrich Williams and 4 minutes of AJ Mitchell. But we'll see there. But ultimately, as we look at the current ownership, Cason Wallace at 4,800, 28% owned. I'm under the field on Cason Wallace, and I want to be under the field on Cason Wallace because I think that is the most natural way to move ownership around. Because Isaiah Hartenstein at 6K is 16% owned. I am over the field there. That's a guy that I want to use to be different. I like Hartenstein more in this game. I liked him more in game one, and I took a stand. It looked good in his minutes. I'm going to do the same thing again here today. There's one other spot that we have to touch on that's massive, that stands out to me. This one worked out. I mean, pretty much everything I thought for game one happened. I was very early to the Obi Toppin is going to get these threes. He's going to have the opportunities. I said that in the first look show. I said it in the strategy show. I said it during Live Before Lock. That couldn't have worked out much better. I had the same thought on Benedict Mathurin and TJ McConnell. I don't like this series for TJ McConnell. I do like it more for Benedict Mathurin from a playing time perspective. TJ McConnell was dreadful. Minus 13 for the game. Anytime he's out there defensively, it's going to go pretty damn poorly for Indiana, especially because we're seeing TJ McConnell play a large chunk of his minutes without Miles Turner. If TJ McConnell is out there and it's just Benedict Mathurin or Obi Toppin, this Pacers defense is awful. Full stop. Terrible defense. And if that's the case, I think we're either going to get less TJ McConnell minutes or they're just simply going to go poorly and better for Oklahoma City. But I want less of McConnell, too small, not a good enough defense, and I want more of Benedict Mathurin. Luckily for me right now, I am a bit under the field on TJ McConnell. I'm right with the field on Mathurin, but by the time I get to lock, I'll probably give him a slight boost to have him. But this is not a good TJ McConnell series. He's going to get played off the floor. Now, he'll always just be out there for like 8 minutes each game. no matter where we get to be an irritant. You bring him out there, especially in the home games. You bring him out there to inject energy into the crowd. Long term, though, I don't like playing him without Turner. I think that causes real problems, especially when it's Toppin and not Bryant. So my recommendation is light McConnell, little heavier Mathurin. Now there are going to be, I got to get back to the talking point, which is Obi Toppin. Toppin was fantastic offensively in game one. 6 of 9 from the field, 5 of 8 from 3, had 5 rebounds, 2 assists, plus 13, closed. That is obviously not a game we're going to get all the time from Obi Toppin, but the same thing that I said before, I'm going to say again here. The things that Oklahoma City does defensively benefit Obi Toppin's skill set in this series. He's the guy they're most likely to pseudo leave. He's going to get open looks, or looks, I guess, at least, from 3, and it's all going to come down to whether or not they fall. They obviously like to use him in going small. Maybe the counter to that for the Thunder is just simply not going small and seeing how they do with a double big against that scenario. I'm more nervous about Toppin in game 2 than I am in game 1. We did just see him smash. We see him right now with the 4th most ownership. I want to be clear. He's a great play on paper. The point per dollar value for Obi Toppin is great. At 4K, given the minutes you expect him to play, I am not surprised at all that he's the 4th most owned guy. He's owned more than anybody else on the Pacers. He's owned more overall than Tyrese Halliburton. Overall, more than Pascal Siakam. He is my biggest fade right now. Couldn't be happier. Could he go out there and just make those shots again? Absolutely. Because I think he's going to get them. That's a spot that Oklahoma City is going to be okay with giving up. If Obi Toppin hitting threes is the way you lose, it's going to look a lot like it did against Dallas last year. And Obi Toppin is going to continue to play the role of PJ Washington. That's just what it is. Obi Toppin is the 2025 version of PJ Washington in 2024. Those threes are going to be there. Today, I don't want him. I don't have a bigger fade today than Obi Toppin. He's in 40% of lineups, and at this moment right now, he's in 3% of mine. And again, this has nothing to do with his performance in game 1. But if he's going to soak up this much ownership, I see what the downside is. The downside is the shots don't fall. Because if Obi Toppin isn't 5 of 8 from 3, and Obi Toppin is 2 of 8, you're going to feel that. And a 2 of 8 performance is like not at all crazy. So I like these first 3 guys in that I'm going to have a ton of Shai. I'm just going to have more of him at utility and less of captain. I am going to have big stands on J-Dub and Chet. And I am going to be well under the field of Obi Toppin. Those are the 4 highest owned guys. They're the only 4 guys over 40%. And that is where I stand for these guys. Now, one thing that I do think is going to be interesting for this one has a little bit to do with the way that game 1 was played. Now, I don't totally know what the impact is, but if I remember correctly, I think that game 1 was like the least amount of passes that Oklahoma City has completed in a game this year, or at least something in that neighborhood. I think they're going to have to get a little bit more ball movement going. Now, I don't think that was a choice. I think that's very much a product of what the Indiana Pacers are doing defensively. So it's not as if like Oklahoma City just has unlimited say in the matter. But I do expect more ball movement. they were ISOing pretty heavy, and I think they're going to have to change that. So let's look into a little bit of the matchups from game one. Now, the big one that everybody is going to be looking at is the matchup of Andrew Nembhard on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The Thunder scored 32 points in the 46 partial possessions where Nembhard was the closest defender. That was not great. But it wasn't necessarily Shai that I had the issue with. It's the lack of anything else. No assists in those partial possessions when Andrew Nembhard is the closest defender. Like, Shai individually was fine, and I think that's going to be okay. But if it's going to stop him from getting anybody else involved, that's a little surprising to me. I thought Shai would have a little bit better of a time in this matchup against Nembhard. So game one was a bit surprising. I guess there's something to the fact that these guys have known each other for years. But ultimately, I expect Shai to win this matchup more than he did in game one. But the lack of assists is telling in that spot. So what I want to see is, let's see. Nope, that ain't it. Where is... Where's the play type data? That's kind of annoying. Anyway, let's look at the rest of these OKC matchups, because this is the other big one. And this is the one that hurt him. Chet Holmgren with Miles Turner as the primary defender, 1 of 7 from the field. Now, the team was also bad, but he just couldn't finish. I wish I could. I watched every one of these. I don't think I can do that right now. I mean, I guess I can, but let's at least mute that. Gets the bucket on the first play on a sloppy layup, but then for the other shots that Chet took, ugly. Right into Turner's arm. Not ideal. Tough finish over Turner again. So let's... Turner stopping it. Turner stopping it. Turner stopping it. Like, he is struggling in these matchups. I mean, every single one of those has been a Turner changing the shot in some way. Stripped again, and then he makes that final one. Look, I agree. Miles Turner's a good defender. It's not always going to look like that for Chet Holmgren. And that's a really interesting swing. Because what if Turner's just late on one of those plays, and instead of it being a block, it's a foul? That's the way that I think this one changes for Chet today, is just a little bit more reach happy, and all of a sudden Turner picks one up. If we hop to cleaning the glass, we pull up Miles Turner. This has been the best year of Miles Turner's career in terms of not fouling. 3.1%. Previous years, he was like slightly below average, but even still, somewhere around average at fouling. I would not be surprised at all to see a game 2 scenario where that doesn't go as well for Miles Turner. But ultimately, it just comes down to how can Chet best finish at the rim? And I don't think 1 of 7 is going to be the most likely scenario. But that was a difficult matchup for him. The other one that we need to point out is going to be Halliburton. He got the Dort treatment. Look, they're they're going to do everything they can to not have the ball in Tyrese Halliburton's hands. And that's going to lead to the ball being in Andrew Nembhard's hands a lot more. And if I'm Oklahoma City, that's a win. Look, Andrew Nembhard was really damn good in the fourth quarter of that game. 2 of 5 from the field, monster step back three free throws, a couple assists. He had to run the show because Lou Dort is just negating Tyrese Halliburton. I don't think that Lou Dort is going to stop negating Tyrese Halliburton anytime soon, but I definitely think that they're going to be able to also put Andrew Nembhard in a much more difficult situation. But let's be very clear here. This is not a good shot. No matter how well it looked, that's a tough spot. It went, that's great, but that's not like a likely make. So I'm down on them. I'm down on the Pacers today in general. Because game 2, team at home, lost the first game. 11-point favorites in game 2. My expectation here is a pseudo blowout, but not necessarily because Oklahoma, like if Oklahoma City is just making their shots, it's over. But I think that we're going to see the reverse style blowout where the Pacers are really struggling to get any offense today. Ivan, am I saying it was lucky? Yeah, of course. And I don't say that to like negate the Pacers, because when push comes to shove, there's 2 different ways that we should be looking at this. One of them doesn't matter at all to analysis. The other one does. The goal is to win the game. The Pacers did that. It doesn't matter how it happened. It doesn't matter why it happened. None of it. They booked a win. That's a giant dub. But booking a win doesn't make anything more or less predictable. We don't evaluate these teams differently. Well, I mean, in a way we do, but worse. We feel worse about the Pacers and better about OKC today than vice versa. But the outcome of the game in general is less important than the breakdown and the teams themselves. And that's why you see the Oklahoma City Thunder being 11-point favorites here. I mean, think about it like this. This is no different than Boston and New York, right? I mean, we're talking about the exact same thing here. We're not going to look back in time and think like, well, the Knicks were better than the Boston Celtics. Like, that's not the evaluation. If the Oklahoma City Thunder lose today, they will be 4 or 5 point, 4-point favorites in Indy in game 3. Again, that doesn't mean that the Pacers can't win these games, but we have to remember the Thunder are a significantly better team. They would probably be favorites in game 4 if they lose the first 3 games. So we don't want to overreact to results when trying to analyze a game. Look, again, I love it. It was so much fun to watch game 1. Did I want the Pacers to come back and win? No. Did I want them to come back? Yeah, I did. But my lean today is a really good defensive performance that flummoxes the Pacers. And I think that defense is going to come from any time of double bigs. There's a couple other guys that we probably need to touch on. Aaron Wiggins was pulling a bit more ownership than he should have been in game 1. Did not really get the run. Could he be an interesting value play today? Of course. I think $1,400 Thomas Bryant might be like my most interesting value play. for two reasons. One, it seems like he's just going to be out there. He takes shots that OKC gives up. So you're going to get corner threes out of Thomas Bryant. And if the Pacers aren't going well, one, I think that could have something to do with Miles Turner. And two, they are willing to like not have Miles Turner out there. So I like Thomas Bryant for a value option. I could do without Ben Shepherd, AJ Mitchell, Kenrich Williams, Jalen Williams with a Y. They could absolutely step their way into a couple extra minutes, but I don't have any confidence here. But if I'm looking at a value play, my preferred true value play is Thomas Bryant. More than Isaiah Joe, certainly more than TJ McConnell, probably more than Benedict Mathurin, if I'm honest. OKC lose this series. Indy on another level. Well, you have a generational wealth spot. I hope that you're betting every single cent that you have on the Pacers, because that is what the math would tell you to do if that's what you think. There's absolutely nothing that should tell you that that's the case. When the line for the game 2 is 11 and you don't think that's right, it shouldn't be I'm right and the world is wrong. It should be, I wonder why I'm looking at this incorrectly. Because these sports books are going to take fucking $1 billion across all these sports books. I mean, I'm exaggerating, obviously, but hundreds of millions of dollars on game 2 across all these sports books. They're not in the business of just putting out shit. Yeah, Zach, like, that's great. That's great. I would love to have that. I would probably cash it out. But we need to remember what this Vegas information is, which is the best way that we can describe what is about to happen. And we need to use that information to inform our decisions. The biggest misnomer to people is that all they're doing is setting a line to get even action on both sides. We got to remember that they know who places bets. And they know a lot of dumb people place them. And those bets don't matter at all. What does it look like if OKC has a better game offensively? Death for the Pacers. It's going to be really difficult for the Pacers to be in a game. Here, I'll just show it for example's sake. So all right, full game. So they scored 110 points in 102 possessions. That's a 108 offensive rating, slightly below average. If OKC has like a 50th percentile or higher offensive game, I think that's really difficult to ever beat, because their it's going to be very hard for their defense to just give it up like that. You'll come back soon and say you told me so. You shouldn't even come back. You should have $1 million if you're right. You shouldn't even have to come back. You should be sitting on a beach somewhere because it's a generational wealth spot. Yeah, Steven, that's the tricky part. But and again, I don't say these things to undersell the Pacers. I only say them to best evaluate these teams. Like, the Thunder still have a 6-point better net rating in the playoffs than Indiana. I'm not being mean. I'm being truthful. If you think this, you should have a ton of money down on the Indiana Pacers. Otherwise, the opinions don't matter. They do just keep winning, but we got to remember, look, and they were great. They were good in the regular season. It's still just 17 games. Like, imagine if he just doesn't make 2 of those buzzer beaters. Everything changed. Like, we give too much credit for wins in evaluation. Oh, I saw an interesting stat. This will bother people. Let's pull this up because this is going to be fun. I saw somebody post this. So Jalen Williams so far in this playoffs. Hold on, let me get to it. All right, per game stats, playoffs. He is 20 points, 5.5 boards, 5.5 assists in 17 games. Jimmy Butler in the 2020 playoffs, the year they went to the finals, 22, 6.5, and 6. Would you guys picture J-Dub having the same box score stat line as Jimmy Butler the year that Miami went to the finals? Because he does. And if you want to look at it per 36, because that'll equalize it a bit more. 21, 6, and 6 for Jimmy Butler. 21, 6, and 5.5 for J-Dub. How many people out there are thinking Jalen Williams is having the same playoffs that Jimmy Butler did when he took the Heat to the finals? My guess is 0, right? Nobody is like, well, Jimmy Butler. No one is thinking Jalen Williams is as good as Jimmy Butler, right? It's intriguing because I'm not a points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game guy. That's usually stats that I will take a dump on when people bring them into chat. But where are the people that would be touting those kind of stats now? Because we also know that he's exceptional defensively in guards 1 through 5. They're willing to play him as the nominal 5 in these small lineups. Guy's good, man. Guy's good. It's so weird. So weird. So anyway, let me hit you guys with my final exposures for what I have now. The guys that I'm taking the biggest stand on, the guys that I'm taking, or that I have the biggest fades on. My 5 biggest fades. Number 1, with a bullet, Obi Toppin. Assuming he is somewhere around 40% ownership, gimme, gimme, gimme. Cason Wallace, second biggest fade. Aaron Nesmith, Pascal Siakam, and Isaiah Joe rounded out, but I'm only a little bit under the field on those guys. The biggest stands. Thomas Bryant. Oddly enough, Miles Turner. So if it does go well for the Pacers, Turner is my out. Ben Shepherd, I have a little bit of, but I'm not going to go crazy there. Isaiah Hartenstein and SGA. I love my exposures right now. OKC too young. They need a veteran player. I don't disagree there. I was screaming it from the mountaintops at the trade deadline that I thought they needed to get one more guy in here. Legend. That's not my take. That's not what my take is supposed to be. Yes, I would clearly take Jimmy Butler in 2000 over J-Dub in this series. But I needed to point out the stats that other people would use in these normal situations. But yeah, I do think OKC is too young. It's not like the Pacers aren't also young. I mean, they have Pascal Siakam with any experience and no one else. So it is kind of the same situation. Like Siakam and Caruso are the same thing, and then everybody else has never done any of this shit. So I can't get too worried about experience because neither one of them have it. But yes, I was the biggest critic of the Oklahoma City Thunder at the deadline for not bringing in an extra guy for exactly what's happening right now. They need one more body that can create a shot. And to buy that at the deadline would not have cost them anything of value. They could have given up anything they wanted. It would have never affected their future. And they could have brought in somebody else that creates a shot on their own. That person didn't need to play a ton. They just needed a little boost. Ultimately, I don't expect it to matter. They're 11-point favorites in game 2. It'll probably never matter, and it'll probably get fallen by the wayside. But if it does, remember, I said it. Folks, tonight, game 2, 8 o'clock tip. I will be back at 7:30 Eastern time on YouTube for Live Before Lock. We'll also be streaming on Playback, playback.tv/Stokastic, and I will be live for the entire game. So come watch the game with us. You could subscribe to the channel to watch. You can get a VIP pass to watch. You could link up your own account if you want to watch. Either way, you're going to get 3.5 straight hours of breakdown tonight. My expectation is that I get to sign off during the fourth quarter because it's a blowout. But if it's not, you'll have me all the way till the end. I love that you guys were here. Thank you for joining me this morning. Go Oklahoma City, and in particular, big time failure for Obi Toppin. Let's go Thomas Bryant. Later, y'all.